Hello residents of Meepletown, today we are playing Tribes, Dawn of Humanity. And in Tribes, you are going to be going through three different epochs, the Paleolithic, the Neolithic, on into the Bronze Age, and you're going to be taking different actions, gaining victory points to be the strongest tribe. So let's get to the table and check out Tribes. Okay, this is the setup for a two-player game. We've got the gray players over here, the white over here. Gray is going to be first, which means white got a bear tooth, which is a victory point. They got one to start off. We have the achievement board, part of the board right here, where you are going to be accomplishing these things, basically building these technologies, like in this case hunting and jewelry making and trapping. And as you unlock these different achievements, you're going to be moving up on this tech track. You also have this progress part of the board right now, and there's four different pieces of that. There's the strength here, the movement, the searching, the exploring action that you're going to be taking, and then the procreation action to be able to get new tribesmen out on your board. We each also drew three tiles, and these represent different resources that you have access to, but you have to actually have your worker on there for it to count towards what you are going to be doing here. So what you're going to be doing on your turn is taking a tile from up here, and you will be taking that action, putting the tile at the end of this row, and that will be it. There's only four actions that you can take. One is the explore, where you can draw tiles out of the bag and you explore based on where you are on this track. So for example, if I took explore, I'm on the level 1 of this track, and that means I'd be able to draw one tile out of the bag and place it into my land area. There's the procreation, which adds a worker onto a little meeple character onto a tile where you already have a worker. And there is the movement action, which allows you to move your different tribesmen, your workers, around on the board, because when you take the last action, which there are three different tiles with that hand on there, that's where you're going to be able to take an achievement. You have to be able to have your worker on the tile for the achievement that you want to take. And I'll explain that actually right now. I'll go ahead and do that one right now. This is the gray player will be the starting player, and they will take the very first action. Now, if you want to take the first tile, that's free for you to do. If you've ever played like Century Spice Road or something like that, let's say I wanted to take a tile that was farther up in line, then I would have to place a seashell token on those spots before. Let's say I want to take this action right here. I could take this one, but I'd have to put the seashell tokens on the ones before that. Then later on, when somebody takes one of those tiles, that will be seashells that they'll gain. They're actually not seashells. I forget what they're called in this game. They're just shell tokens. But first thing I want to do is to take an achievement. Now I have my worker. I drew these three randomly, but they had to be different tiles. Same for this person over here. And I'm going to take the achievement action, which will let me take a cube from my color, and I can place it on the horse because that is where I have one of my workers. And when I do that, this is going to show you what you're going to do. So I will take 2 victory points since I'm the first one to do that. So 2 of the bear tooth tokens, and I'll just put those over here by my shell. And then I will move up 1 on the strength track, and that will allow me to have a higher strength. Now that doesn't really matter much for anything for these tiles that come out, but later on, when some of these event tiles come out, and you'll see that happen actually pretty quickly, when some of these event tiles come out, a lot of them have to do with having a higher strength than the other players. So anyway, I've done that. I've taken my 2 bear tooth tokens. I've moved up 1 on the strength track. I immediately unlock this one, and so now I can go up to this tile here, which means I would have to have 2 of the goat tokens. Now this unlocks this for me, but the white player would have to be able to have trapping before they're allowed to have cheese making, because you have to trap before you can make cheese, apparently. All right, so that will be my turn, and I'll put that tile up here. the action tile. Now it is the next player's turn, and they kind of think that they might do something very similar since this tile is right here. Now they could use this to procreate. They could make one more worker, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to take the achievement just like the other player did. Now they have to take the goat, which is the hunting tech. They learn how to hunt. I'll put my tile right here. I'll gain 2 bear teeth for victory points, and then I'll move one up on the search track, which will allow me now to be able to draw 2 tiles out of this bag instead of just 1. Now the big difference between this tile is, if you can see it on here, there's a lightning bolt on there, and what that means is an event is immediately going to come out onto this board. And now that is a tile that the players will be able to take. Sometimes, in this case, it's a disease that's not a good one, so it'll be one that they have to take. Whether somebody's going to have to take that tile eventually, and I'll explain that why that is in just a minute. Let's see. I moved up on my track, took my 2 points. What I did not do is flip this tile over. Now the white player has access to farming, but they would have to have 2 of the wheat tokens. They don't have any, so that actually wasn't super beneficial for them, nor was cheese making to unlock. So one of these others is probably going to be a better help for them. So what they're going to want to do is try to draw some tiles out to help them out. All right, so it is the white player's turn, and they would actually like to be able to unlock something else, but in order to do that, they're going to have to move. So they're just going to take this foot for the movement action, and when they do that, they're going to move their worker. Now, it wouldn't be beneficial for them to move that into the wheat token since there's nothing available yet, but they will move it to the gold tile, and then this tile just goes right in here. Like I said, turns are very quick in this game. Back over to the gray player, and I think I actually, whoops, sorry about that. I was taking that for the gray player, not for the white player. So let me go back and redo that. They were going to take that to move. They also want to move, but they don't want to move there. They want to be able to move to the incense so that they can unlock this one. Sorry about that. That was my mistake. Now it is the white player's turn, and the white player is going to, let's see, things are a little bit different now since they could put a shell token on here to move, and that's what they'll do. They're going to put a shell token here to be able to take this action to move, and they're going to do what they were originally going to do anyway, and that's move up to the gold tile. This one goes right back at the end, slides down. Back over to the gray player. The gray player thinks, well, I could just take that, draw some new tiles, and take that shell token, and that would be beneficial, but what they would also like to do is to be able to, this is a tough one. Actually, they will do that. They're going to try to get an achievement instead of searching right now. So they're going to put a shell token there, another shell token there, which makes this one a little more appealing because it has 2 shell tokens on. They're going to take this tile and slide those down, and they're going to take the achievement action, which they're on the incense token. So they're going to take their marker, put it here on shamanism, get 2 points immediately, and those 2 points go right here. After they do that, they're going to move up 1 on that search track, which is why they went ahead and did that now, so that they could it would benefit them more to be able to move up on that track for when they actually do take the search action. After they do that, this tile is going to unlock, and they did have a lightning bolt there, and so a new event will come out, and that is drought. Your tribe exhausts 2 of its land tiles. I didn't mention exhaust yet. I will do that very soon. So this tile is going to go to the end at the end of that turn. Now back over to the white player. The white player would actually like to go ahead and get some new tiles out there that also would like to jewelry make, but it's going to cost them too much right now. They actually would like the shell token, especially with the drought coming up. Again, I'll explain that in just a second. So they'll take this. They're going to search. Now what they do is they're going to draw tiles out of the bag based on where their level is here, and they're on level 2, so they'll draw out 2 tiles. Put those randomly, or draw those randomly, and then they're going to put them out on the board in a way that would benefit them. Now, here's here's something interesting. So now they drew a goat and a gold. Now there's a goat and a gold tile here. So they have 2 of each of these now. And there is the smelting that costs 2 gold and cheese making that costs 2 goats. So now this is a pretty interesting choice that they have of where they want to put these, because they do want these to be available pretty quickly. So I think what they're going to do is put those out there. And what they're really going to want to do now is to procreate. And when they do that, they're going to be getting new workers out here that can go out on tiles where they need them to be. If that made sense, I hope that did. All right, I'm going to interject here for just a second because I wanted to make sure I made this clear. So let's say I wanted to take the achievement for cheese making, and I have these 2 workers right here, and I have these 2 goat tiles. Now, I would have to have 1 worker on 1 goat tile and another on another tile, which is why you have to move all of these workers around, because you have to be able to have a worker on the land tile that matches the resource for the achievement that you want to claim. So again, I couldn't have 2 on the 1 goat tile. I'd have to have 1 on each of those goat tiles, and then I could take the achievement action to allow me to place my cube on cheese making if I was able to reach that spot. Hope that clears things up. And so they're going to take that, slide that down, and back over to the gray player. And let's see, gray player is kind of thinking the same thing. They're thinking, I would like to be able to have more workers out there that would open up some more options for them, but they also would like to be able to draw tiles. Now here's the thing, they can't draw tiles until towards the end here, so they're not going to do that yet. With the disease, I mentioned that eventually somebody's going to have to take that. Well, as the disease moves up here, more and more people are going to be placing their shell tokens on them, on those tiles to pass over it. However, the problem is eventually somebody will have to take it, because once you run out of shell tokens, you don't have any more to put on that tile, and so eventually you're going to have to take it. The gray player doesn't want to get stuck where they're not going to have any workers, but here's the benefit of that disease tile coming out at the very beginning, because you cannot have less than 1 tribe member. So actually taking that right now is not a huge loss, but if they went ahead and took a procreate action, the white player only has 1 worker as well. So they're going to take a chance. Gray's going to take a chance that the white player will get stuck taking that tile, which won't affect them because they won't have more than 1 worker. But if it comes back to gray, it will affect them because they will lose one of their, excuse me, I was about to grab that bag. They will lose one of their workers. So they're going to take this procreate action. They're only level 1, so they're only going to procreate 1, and they're going to take this tile and put it at the end. The white looks at their tiles and they think, well, I could go ahead and beat them out in this process where they would have to lose a worker, but the problem is they would lose all their shells in the process. So white will go ahead and take the disease tile, and this would normally make them lose 2 tribe members, but again, they only have 1, so they can't lose less. They can't have less than 1 tile. So this tile is just going to be removed from the game. They took that, but that will be their entire action, basically like losing a turn for them right now. Could have been a lot worse. That's not the end of the world. I'm just going to play out a little bit more just to give you an idea. That was the white player's turn. Back over to gray player. They want to keep procreating, but they also want to be able to open up some more options. So I think, and they can't draw any tiles yet, so I think they will. They'll go ahead and procreate again so that they're kind of setting themselves up for being able to take some bigger actions down the road. Now it is the white player's turn. They would also like to procreate, but unfortunately they just cannot do that right now. And so really, but the problem is nothing really benefits them right now except procreating unless they want to draw new tiles. Now, I mentioned the drought coming up. Your tribe exhausts 2 of its land tiles. So when you exhaust it, what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over. You can still move through that tile, but unfortunately you won't be able to take the action or have the benefit of that resource on that tile. And so a drought is a really bad thing. Now you can, on your turn, if you have a character on here, I'll just show this. So I'll put this meeple on the gold tile here. So I can exhaust this to count this as a wild tile at one point in the game if I want to. The tile is no longer in use for the resource that it has on there, but it does become wild. White's in a little bit of a predicament here because of that, though. Let's see, they can go ahead and start looking at some of these other tiles. And I think that's what they're going to do. That's going to be the best thing for them to do right now. They're going to take this tile so they can take the achievement on there, and they will take their white tile and put it on the jewelry making, because that's where they had their person. When they do that, they immediately get 2 points. If I can find a 2 in here, they'll get 2 for that. A event tile will come out. That one's Woolly Rhinoceros, and that says your tribe loses 2 victory points if the tribe is the weakest. So you see how this strength track comes into play now, because you want to have a stronger presence on that strength track, so you can really mess up the other players or benefit yourself, either way. So they took that achievement, they took their points. They're going to move up on the travel track. Oops, sorry, that's the white player. Move up on the travel track. And that is their entire action, but they did unlock this tile right here. And I'll stop there and I'll kind of explain how this game will play out. So as you saw, these event tiles were coming out based on these different tiles triggering. Eventually you're going to get up to this top row, and these are going to all be 3 resources that you have to have. And when you have these 3 resources and you trigger an event, these are going to come out. Now, once these have come out, once 2 of these have been taken in a 2-player game, then that will trigger the end of the game. And you're going to add up points that you have from your bear teeth. You'll also have points potentially as you've moved up on these tracks. You'll get, let's say if you moved all the way up on the procreation track, for example, you'd get 6 points here. And so that's what those numbers represent. You also will have a bonus, you'll get bonus 2 points for having the most tribesmen out on the board. And then an additional 2 points if you have the most land tiles out on the board. And then you're going to add up your scores, and that is the end of the game. All right, as I was putting up the game, I realized that there was one thing I neglected to say during gameplay, and that was if you are in a spot, so let's say I'm in hunting, I'm in hunting, but I want to get to cheese making, but I don't have shamanism yet. Now you can take your little arrow piece, and one time during the game you can lay that on the board so that you can go from hunting to cheese making, so that I can completely skip over shamanism if I don't have the correct tile that I need to be able to take that action. So I hope I cleared some of that up, and I wanted to make sure I made sense of that. All right, now before we get to just talking straight up about the art and components, I'm going to put this off here so that I didn't confuse anyone on that. Before we get to the art and components, just want to point out a few things. So you've got a lot of these event tiles in the game. Those will be random. Again, a lot of those have to do with strength and having a higher strength than the other players, but then some of them are just, they're just bad things that happen, like the drought or the disease tile that came out. And so there's several of these. Now there are only 5 of each of these sets of the achievement tiles. So in this case, you've got the horse, the trapping, jewelry making, hunting, shamanism, and then there's one other tile that can come out. So there's not a lot of variability in these tiles. Right here, there's only 5 of each of those, a ton of these land tiles. I just wanted to point that out to give you an idea of kind of the variability of this setup. But let's get to talking about the art and components. So the art and components in this game. First, I'm going to talk about the art. I do think that the art on the box cover is pretty cool. It's got this silhouette of the mammoth and these tribesmen going across the box, and I do think that's pretty cool. It's something that draws you in, especially if you're really into this theme. I think this is it's going to draw you in from the box cover. When you look at the board, I think the art's fine. It's not anything that's just like spectacular, but it's got like these bright colors for this type of game, but it works, right? So the tiles are brighter. It's something that kind of draws you in to the game. You've got these customized tribal meeples. You've got a nice drawstring bag. Everything is labeled really well, so not a lot of complaints from the components. Art, it's subjective. Not my favorite, but it's fine. Now onto the gameplay. I think the gameplay is fun, but there's some things that I'm going to have to talk about, some issues that I have. Now the things that I like, first off, I think that the gameplay is super simple. Your turns go really fast. You saw that. I don't remember how many turns I took in the gameplay, but it was a lot because they just go very quickly. You're just going to take a tile and do the action on the tile based on where you are on the track. So the first, the procreate, the movement and the exploring actions are super fast. And then when you get to the action that allows you to place your cube on the board to move up on the track and gain points, and also flip over the next tile in line, also easy and not very difficult to do. So I think that's good. I think that's a very good thing. And you also have the Century Spice Road action placement thing, or where you're placing the you can skip actions to be able to skip actions by placing your seashells on there to take other actions that you want. I like that because you have to think through, do I want to move too far ahead, and am I going to be able to get these seashells back in order to be able to use them when I need them? And that's really important, because if you don't do that well, there's a good chance you're not going to win this game because you're not going to be able to take the actions that you want to take. So you have to plan well for that. Now on to some of the negatives for me. I think the event tiles are pretty cool, right? So as they come out, they're going to do things. A lot of them are based on how good your strength is. So like if you have the strongest tribe, then you're going to gain victory points. Or if you have the weakest tribe, you're going to lose tribal members or something like that. I think those are kind of interesting initially, but they're all really similar, right? There's not a lot of variety that comes from those event tiles. They all feel kind of the same. And the other thing is, as you're developing these new technologies like cooking and hunting or whatever, those cheese making or whatever, they don't feel thematic at all. You're just moving up on a track and getting victory points, which is fine. But I want something that feels a little bit different. And if you saw each of those rows, you've got 4 different tiles. Well, there's only 5 total in the game for each of those different epochs. And so you're not going to get a lot of variety in the game from those tiles either. And the other negative that I have, I guess, is that the pace of this game can be kind of slow. It doesn't really take a long time to play the game, right? It's a pretty quick game. But you have to be able to move your workers around to be able to take those different actions that you want to be able to take, right? So as you move up on the track, let's say I have to have workers in 2 of the goat tiles. Well, it's going to take a couple of turns if you only have a speed of 1 to move those workers. Or if you don't have enough workers, you're going to have to procreate. And so that pacing can feel kind of slow. But I'll say if this is a theme that you like, and if you're looking for a gateway game, this is a great one to introduce to somebody who really enjoys this theme. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a great game to teach new players, or if you like lighter games, that's great too. I love light games. This is another good light game. I just wish the pacing was a little bit quicker, and I wish that there was more variety in the game. But outside of that, I still think it's a fun game. I still think it's one that you should check out. I'm going to give this one a 6.5 out of 10, which is not a bad game. It just means it's not one that I'm going to want to play all the time, right? I'm going to want to have more variety. If there's an expansion that comes out that adds more variety with the different tiles that come out in the game, I think this could bump this one up for me a little bit. But as it is, 6.5, still a fun game. Check this out if the theme draws you in, if you like the quick turns that you get from this game, and if it's one that you think you can introduce to new players, I think this is one you should check out. So again, 6.5 for me out of 10. Now, how can you get in touch with us? You can go to @MeepleTownGames on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can go to our website, meepletowngames.com, where you can see all of our videos that are there. You can see our podcasts that are posted on there. You can also see some of our written blogs that Jonathan's done on there. Definitely check that out. And if you want to get in touch with our community and have these conversations about board games, you can go to Board Game Geek Guild number 3407. Thanks for coming down to Meepletown.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to follow us on Twitter @MeepletownGames, and connect with us on the Meepletown Guild, Guild number 3407, at BoardGameGeek.com, and also subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. And until next time, thanks for coming down to Meepletown.